Okay, I want you to picture something. I hand you a crisp, brand new $1,000 bill. Not a photo, not a number on a screen, an actual $1,000 sitting in your hand. And I say, don't spend it. Don't invest it. Don't put it in a savings account. Just tuck it away somewhere safe, under your mattress, in a shoebox, wherever. Now, fast forward 25 years. You pull it out, count it. It's still $1,000. Every bill is still there. Nobody stole a single one. So why does it feel like you got robbed? That's the whole video. We're going to follow one single $1,000 bill on a 25-year road trip and watch in real time everything it slowly loses the ability to buy. No lectures, no whiteboard graphs, just one bill and the long, quiet heist that happens to it every single day. Let's meet our hero. It's the year 2000. Y2K panic just fizzled out. Nothing exploded, and somewhere in your wallet is our $1,000 bill, fresh off the printing press, feeling invincible. Let's see what it's capable of. A Big Mac back then cost you about $2.24. So our $1,000, that's good for roughly 446 Big Macs. You could eat a Big Mac every single day for over a year straight. Gas was hovering around $1.50 a gallon. That $1,000 fills your tank enough times to drive to the moon. Okay, not literally, but you get the point. It's a lot of gallons, somewhere north of 660. A movie ticket ran you about $5.40. That's 185 trips to the theater. You could watch a new movie almost every other day for a year. And if you were renting an apartment, the median rent in the country was around $600 a month. Our bill alone covers your rent with money left over for groceries. Our $1,000 bill is living its best life. It is an absolute unit of purchasing power. Now, here's the twist. It doesn't get spent. It just waits in a drawer, watching the years go by like a sleepy little dragon guarding its treasure. Except the treasure is quietly losing value the entire time, and it has no idea. Let's jump forward. 2008 rolls around. The financial crisis hits. Gas prices spike past $4 a gallon at one point, the highest they'd ever been. Banks collapse, the economy is in chaos. And here's a fun fact most people don't know. During a crisis like that, the government and the central bank don't just sit there. They start pumping money into the economy to keep it from completely seizing up. Think of it like a patient on life support. More cash gets pushed into the system to keep things breathing. But more cash floating around chasing the same number of goods, that's the first ingredient in the inflation recipe. We'll come back to that. Fast forward again, 2009. Something happens that our $1,000 bill doesn't even notice, but it matters a lot. The federal minimum wage gets bumped up to $7.25 an hour. And then, nothing. That number does not move again, not for the next 15+ years. While literally everything else around it keeps climbing, the minimum wage just sits there, frozen, like it fell asleep at the wheel. Keep that in your back pocket. We'll need it later. Let's keep traveling. The 2010s roll by. Smartphones get big, streaming kills Blockbuster. Our bill is just sitting in that drawer the whole time, watching the world change around it. By 2015, that Big Mac isn't $2 anymore. Movie tickets are pushing $8. Rent has been quietly climbing every single year, like a plant nobody's watering, but somehow it keeps growing anyway. And then we hit the moment that changed everything. 2020, the pandemic hits. The entire global economy basically slams on the brakes at the same time. Factories shut down, ships stop moving, restaurants close. And to keep people and businesses from collapsing, governments around the world do something on a scale we've genuinely never seen before. They print money, a lot of it. In the US, the amount of money circulating in the economy, something economists call the money supply, jumped by around 40% in just 2 years. That is the fastest increase in the money supply since World War II. Picture it like this. Imagine a game of musical chairs. Normally, there are, say, 10 chairs and 10 players. Fair game. Now, imagine someone hands out 10 more tickets to play, but doesn't add a single new chair. Suddenly, there are 20 people scrambling for 10 chairs. That's what happens when more money gets created without more stuff being produced to match it. More dollars chasing the same number of burgers, same number of houses, same number of cars. And when more people want the same limited stuff, prices get bid upward. That's called demand-pull inflation, and it's basically an auction nobody agreed to enter. But 2020 didn't just hand out extra chairs, it also started removing chairs from the game. Supply chains broke. Factories couldn't get parts. Ships were stuck outside ports for weeks. There was, and I promise I'm not making this up, an actual global shortage of computer chips that made cars more expensive because new cars need chips and there weren't enough to go around. Fewer goods being made, combined with the cost of making and shipping them going up, that's called cost-push inflation. It's not about too much demand, it's about not enough supply, and the price still climbs either way. So you had both problems hitting at once, more money in people's pockets and fewer things on the shelves for that money to buy. That combination is basically inflation's dream scenario. Prices didn't just creep up after that, they jumped. Groceries, rent, cars, fast food, especially fast food. Some items on menus have straight up doubled or even tripled since the mid-2010s. Meanwhile, remember that minimum wage frozen at $7.25 since 2009? It's still frozen. While the price of basically everything else kept climbing, that number just sat there, motionless, like it missed the memo entirely. Okay, time for the moment of truth. Let's bring our $1,000 bill back out of the drawer. It's roughly 2025 now, 25 years since we first met it. Same bill, same $1,000. Let's see what it can do now. That Big Mac that used to cost $2.24 is now close to $5.80. Our $1,000 used to buy 446 of them. Now it buys around 172. We lost over 250 burgers. Somebody, and I'm not saying who, but somebody has been eating our burgers this whole time, and that somebody is inflation. Gas, which used to get us past 660 gallons, prices are now sitting north of $3 a gallon in a lot of the country. Our $1,000 now stretches to maybe 300 gallons. We lost more than half our road trip. Movie tickets, which averaged around $5.40 back in 2000, are now pushing past $10 in a lot of theaters. Our 185 movie nights just got cut down to somewhere around 95. And rent? The national average monthly rent is now well over $1,500. Remember when our $1,000 used to cover an entire month of rent with cash to spare? Now it doesn't even cover 2/3 of 1 month. Here's the number that really puts it in perspective, though. Economists measure this stuff using something called the Consumer Price Index, or CPI for short. It basically tracks the average price of a big basket of everyday goods and services over time, so we can measure how much more expensive life has gotten overall, not just for one item, but broadly. And using CPI data, $1,000 back in the year 2000 has the same buying power as somewhere around $1,800 to $1,900 today. Flip that around, and it means something a little brutal. Our original $1,000 bill, sitting there in the drawer 25 years older, looking exactly the same as the day we met it. In terms of what it can actually do for you, it's now worth roughly what $550 was worth back in 2000. We didn't lose a single bill. We lost almost half its power. Nobody broke into the drawer, nobody robbed us. The money just quietly rotted from the inside, 1 percentage point at a time, for 25 straight years. Now, before you panic and assume all inflation is some evil villain twirling a mustache, here's a wrinkle. A small, steady amount of inflation, most central banks target somewhere around 2% a year, is actually considered healthy for an economy. It encourages people to spend and invest their money instead of just hoarding it under a mattress, like our poor doomed $1,000 bill. A little inflation keeps the economy's blood flowing. The scary version is when inflation spirals completely out of control. And if you want to see what that looks like at the extreme end, let's take a quick wild detour to Zimbabwe in 2008. At the peak of Zimbabwe's hyperinflation crisis, prices were doubling roughly every 24 hours. Not every year, not every month, every day. The government printed a $100 trillion note, and by the time you tried to spend it, it might not even cover a bus ride across town. People were paid in the morning and had to spend the money by lunch because by dinner, it had lost meaningful value. That's what happens when the money printer runs with absolutely no brakes. Our $1,000 bill's 25-year slow leak is nothing compared to that. It's the difference between a tire slowly losing air over months and a tire straight up exploding. So who actually gets hurt by all this, and who comes out okay? If you're someone who just saves cash and lets it sit, like our bill, you lose. Every year it buys a little less. If you're a borrower who took out a loan years ago at a fixed rate, inflation can actually work in your favor a little because you're paying that loan back with dollars that are worth less than the dollars you originally borrowed. If you're on a fixed income, like a lot of retirees, inflation is genuinely rough because your income isn't necessarily climbing at the same pace prices are. And if you're trying to buy a home for the first time, inflation over the decades has been brutal. Back in 1970, the median home in the U.S. cost around $23,000. Today, that number is pushing past $400,000. Wages have gone up too, sure, but not nearly at the same pace, which is a big part of why buying a first home feels so much harder now than it did for previous generations. Investors, though, historically tend to do better because things like stocks and real estate have tended to grow in value faster than inflation eats away at cash over the long run. Not guaranteed, but historically true. So, back to our $1,000 bill sitting there, 25 years older, looking exactly the same as the day we met it. Did inflation steal your money?
Not exactly. Your $1,000 never changed, not 1 cent of it disappeared. What changed was the world around it. Burgers got pricier, rent climbed, gas crept up, and your money just stood still while everything else moved forward without it. Inflation isn't a thief that breaks in and takes your cash. It's more like time itself. Silent, constant, and only obvious once you look back and realize just how far behind you've fallen by standing perfectly still. So, next time you find a little cash you forgot about in an old jacket or drawer or a birthday card from years ago, enjoy that little rush of finding free money. Just know that somewhere in the background, it's already been quietly losing a fight you never even knew it was in.